Narrator. Hello and a very warm welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. Have you ever thought about learning a new skill that feels completely outside your comfort zone, something that might even bring a little fear along with it? Or perhaps you've been putting off something you know could be incredibly beneficial, simply because it feels like too big a challenge? Today we're diving into a topic that perfectly embodies overcoming such hurdles: learning to swim. This isn't just about mastering a physical skill. It's a powerful metaphor for facing fears, building confidence step by step, and understanding the importance of patience and perseverance. It's about transforming trepidation into triumph, one stroke at a time. Understanding the process of learning to swim can offer insights into how we approach other new and daunting challenges in life, whether personal or professional. Today we'll listen to an insightful and practical conversation between two friends, Daniel and Chloe, as they discuss their own experiences with learning to swim and share strategies they've found effective for pushing past initial fears and achieving fluidity in the water. By listening to their discussion, you'll not only enhance your English comprehension but also gain valuable vocabulary for discussing personal growth, overcoming challenges, and learning new skills. And remember to stay with us until the end of their conversation, where we'll have a practice session designed to help you actively engage with the language and concepts they explore. So, take a moment to reflect on your own experiences with new challenges, listen attentively, and let's explore the transformative world of learning to swim together. Daniel: Hi Chloe. It's great to connect with you. I was just thinking about how challenging it felt when I first started to learn to swim, and now it's such a joyful activity for me. What are your initial thoughts on this journey of learning to swim? Did you find it daunting? Chloe: Hi Daniel. It's always good to chat. Oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer that learning to swim is one of those foundational life skills that many people approach with some apprehension. For me, the initial fear of the water, especially the deep end, was very real. It felt like a monumental task. Daniel: I completely agree. That feeling of being out of control in the water or not being able to touch the bottom can be incredibly disorienting, especially when you're just starting out. I definitely experienced that sensation of being overwhelmed. Another challenge I've faced is sometimes feeling self-conscious about my technique, even after I've learned the basics. Chloe: Yes, the tendency to compare yourself to more experienced swimmers. It requires a shift in perspective to truly appreciate your own progress. Sometimes we're so focused on achieving perfect form that we don't acknowledge how far we've come from just floating. Daniel: Exactly. And sometimes, even if you do notice your progress, you don't take the time to consciously acknowledge the small victories, like finally being able to hold your breath underwater for a few seconds. What do you think are the core reasons why learning to swim is such a rewarding experience? Chloe: Several reasons. First, it provides immediate, tangible evidence of progress. When you move from struggling to floating or from flailing to a smooth stroke, it gives you a clear sign that you are mastering a new skill. This is incredibly motivating. Daniel: Definitely. That feeling of buoyancy and momentum in the water is crucial. It combats that feeling of helplessness. I've also noticed that achieving small milestones in swimming significantly boosts confidence. Each little improvement builds self-belief, making you more willing to try new strokes or go into deeper water. Chloe: That's a huge point. It creates a positive feedback loop. You succeed a little, you feel more confident, you try harder, you succeed more. And let's not forget how it helps to overcome feeling overwhelmed. When the idea of swimming across a pool seems enormous, breaking it down into small, achievable steps like blowing bubbles, kicking, or floating makes it far less daunting. Daniel: A total game changer. They transform the massive challenge of swimming into a series of manageable skills. That mental shift is crucial for managing the initial anxiety and avoiding giving up. I also think learning to swim is great for building resilience and patience. Chloe: Yes, absolutely. Consistently practicing those small steps reinforces the positive behaviors necessary for long-term mastery. It's like building muscle memory for confidence. Plus, I find that acknowledging small improvements can increase your focus and enjoyment. When you know exactly what the next tiny skill is, it's easier to concentrate on it. Daniel: That makes sense. A clear, immediate objective focuses your energy. So, while the benefits are abundant, What are some of the challenges in consistently staying motivated while learning to swim? Chloe, that's a critical question. One of the biggest challenges, in my experience, is actually remembering to celebrate the small gains. In the rush to master the next stroke, it's easy to complete a mini skill and immediately move on to the next without pausing to register the accomplishment. Daniel, I completely agree. It's a delicate balance. You want to keep improving, but you also need to pause. Another significant pitfall is when a small win doesn't feel impactful enough, or when you feel like your progress is too slow, leading to a sense of frustration or diminishing the accomplishment. Chloe, that's a real concern. It can undermine the very purpose of focusing on incremental progress. You have to actively fight that urge to minimize your efforts. And then there are days when it feels like no progress is made at all, or the small win feels insignificant in the face of persistent obstacles, like a challenging breathing technique. Daniel, precisely. It's vital to have strategies for those days too. You need to be able to find a win, even if it's just feeling more comfortable in the water than the day before. What about trying to break down the huge skill of swimming into smaller learnable wins? How do you approach that practically? Chloe, for learning to swim, I start by outlining all the major components: breathing, floating, kicking, arm strokes. Then for each component, I brainstorm every tiny drill or exercise involved. I then ask myself, what's the absolute smallest, most achievable thing I can practice right now that moves this forward? Could be just blowing bubbles 10 times or holding my breath for 5 seconds. Daniel, that's a thorough approach. I've found that using a mental checklist for these micro skills is incredibly satisfying. Simply completing a drill, no matter how small, gives a jolt of positive reinforcement. It mentally demonstrates progress. Chloe, yes, a can-do list alongside your to-learn list can be revolutionary. It acts as a mental log of your growing abilities. Another strategy one uses is to set daily or weekly mini goals. For example, today I will practice my flutter kick for 15 minutes, or this week I will master the glides after pushing off the wall. Daniel, that's a proactive way to handle it. I've found that giving myself a specific, achievable mini goal for the day helps me start strong and avoid aimless practice. And once I hit that mini goal, I get that little burst of energy. Chloe, and what about actually celebrating these small achievements in the water? How do you ensure you give them the recognition they deserve? Daniel, for me, it doesn't have to be a big celebration. Sometimes it's just a moment of quiet satisfaction after a good lap, or trying a new, slightly more challenging drill. For slightly larger milestones, I might treat myself to an extra 10 minutes of free swimming, or just relax in the hot tub. It's about acknowledging the effort and creating a positive association with the water. Chloe, those are all excellent strategies. I've also found that sharing small wins with a supportive swim buddy or instructor can be very rewarding. Their acknowledgement reinforces the achievement and keeps you accountable. Daniel, that's a great point. It's an ongoing process of recognizing and leveraging progress. What about some of the less obvious benefits of consistently practicing and achieving small wins in swimming? Chloe, one that comes to mind is how it significantly helps with combating water phobia or general anxiety about new situations. When you know you just need to achieve one tiny step, it lowers the barrier to entry, making it easier to get in the water. The sheer inertia of starting is often the hardest part. Daniel, oh, that's a big one. Overcoming that initial inertia is crucial. How have you addressed that? Chloe, I've tried to implement the just get wet rule. If I feel hesitant about getting into the pool, I tell myself I just have to put my feet in or dip my face. Often once that small step is done, the momentum has built and I continue. That initial small win of starting gets me going. Daniel, that's a good way to trick your brain into activity. Another subtle benefit can be a reduction in stress and anxiety. When you consistently see yourself making progress, even in small increments, it reduces the feeling of being overwhelmed and boosts your sense of control over a new environment. Chloe, absolutely. That internal sense of accomplishment can be a powerful antidote to stress. I find that it also builds resilience. When bigger setbacks occur, like a poorly executed turn, you remember all the small victories you've already accumulated, giving you confidence to push through. Daniel, That's a healthy approach. What about when you have a truly tough day at the pool and it feels like no real win was achieved? How do you find a small win then? Chloe, that can be incredibly challenging. On those days, a win might be simply showing up, or learning something new about your own body's movement from a mistake, or maintaining a positive attitude despite difficulties. It could be acknowledging an effort, even if the outcome wasn't perfect, like practicing a difficult breathing pattern without giving up. The win becomes about persistence or learning. Daniel, that's a tough one but a vital perspective. Having a supportive environment that recognizes effort, not just outcomes, can make all the difference. What about the long-term impact of consistently achieving small wins in swimming on your overall well-being? Chloe, it's profound. Small wins build a foundation of competence and confidence that extends beyond the pool. They lead to consistent practice, which accumulates into significant progress towards becoming a proficient swimmer. It's the compound effect in action. They also make the journey more enjoyable and sustainable, promoting a lifelong love for the water. Daniel, absolutely. Making time for self-reflection and acknowledging that progress is crucial for long-term enjoyment and preventing burnout. It's not always easy, but it's vital. Chloe, so it seems like learning to swim, broken down into small wins, is multifaceted and can range from tiny daily drills to strategic mindset shifts and contributes significantly to overall personal growth. Daniel, exactly. And the way we leverage these small victories can significantly impact our motivation, our enjoyment, and our ability to master truly ambitious skills. Developing awareness, consistent effort, and self-recognition are key. Chloe, I agree. And learning from each experience and adapting your strategies over time is also important. What counts as a small win might evolve as you progress from a beginner to an intermediate swimmer. Daniel, that's a great point. It's an ongoing process of learning and refinement. Chloe, well, Daniel, this has been a really insightful conversation. It's good to know that many of these aspects of learning are universal and that there are strategies we can use to improve. Daniel, absolutely, Chloe. Sharing these experiences can be really helpful. It reminds us that even the most daunting new skill is made up of individual steps, and each one counts as a victory. Narrator. That was a truly insightful and relatable conversation between Daniel and Chloe, exploring the diverse and often complex journey of learning to swim through the lens of achieving small wins. They shared practical strategies for identifying these crucial victories, overcoming initial fears, boosting confidence, and leveraging consistent progress towards mastering a new skill. Now, let's move on to our practice session to help you actively engage with the language and concepts they explored. Practice section. Part 1. Vocabulary of learning to swim and new skills. Let's review some key vocabulary and phrases related to learning to swim and new skills that Daniel and Chloe used. Taking the plunge. To make a decision to do something important or difficult, especially after a period of hesitation. Oh, think about, when was the last time you took the plunge on something new? Or daunting, seeming difficult to deal with in anticipation, intimidating. What makes learning a new skill feel daunting to you? Foundational life skills. Basic, essential abilities that are important for everyday living. Why is swimming often considered a foundational life skill? Apprehension, anxiety or fear that something bad or unpleasant will happen. What causes apprehension when approaching a new physical activity? A monumental task. A task that is very great, impressive, or significant in scope. Describe a monumental task you faced. Disorienting, making someone lose their sense of direction or feel confused. How can being in deep water be disorienting for a beginner swimmer? Self-conscious. About technique, feeling unduly aware of oneself as the object of observation by others. Embarrassed or shy. Why might someone feel self-conscious about their swimming technique? A shift in perspective. A change in the way you think about something. What kind of shift in perspective is needed to appreciate small progress? Tangible evidence. Clear and observable proof or signs of something. What kind of tangible evidence of progress do small improvements in swimming provide? Buoyancy, the ability or tendency of an object to float in water or other fluid. How does understanding buoyancy help a new swimmer? A momentum, the impetus gained by a moving object. Figuratively, the driving force gained by the development of a process or course of events. How do small achievements in swimming help to generate momentum? A positive feedback loop, a system where the output of one action reinforces the input for the next, leading to a continuous cycle. How do small successes in learning create a positive feedback loop for confidence? A game changer, an event, idea, or procedure that affects a significant shift in the current way of doing or thinking about something. Why is breaking down a skill into smaller parts considered a game changer? A building resilience, the process of developing the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. How does consistently facing and overcoming small challenges in swimming build resilience? A muscle memory, the ability to reproduce a particular movement without conscious thought, acquired as a result of frequent repetition. How does consistent practice lead to muscle memory in swimming? Consistently staying motivated, regularly maintaining enthusiasm or drive. What are the challenges in consistently staying motivated when learning something new? Celebrate the small gains, to acknowledge and recognize minor achievements or improvements. Why is it important to celebrate small gains, even if they seem insignificant? A significant pitfall, a major hidden or unsuspected danger or difficulty. What is a significant pitfall when focusing on incremental progress? A diminishing the accomplishment, making an achievement seem less significant or impressive. Why should you avoid diminishing the accomplishment of small improvements? Incremental progress, progress that happens in small, distinct steps. Why is focusing on incremental progress important in learning complex skills? A microskills/drills, very small, specific abilities or repetitive exercises to practice a particular skill. What are some examples of microskills or drills in learning to swim? Jolt of positive reinforcement, a sudden, strong feeling of encouragement or reward. What gives you a jolt of positive reinforcement when learning something new? Can-do list, a list of things one is capable of doing. How does a can-do list act as a visual log of your growing abilities? Aimless practice, practicing without a clear purpose or direction. How can setting mini-goals prevent aimless practice? Treat myself to do or buy something special for oneself as a reward. How do you treat yourself to acknowledge a small achievement in learning? Combat water phobia, to fight against an extreme fear of water. How can focusing on small steps help to combat a phobia? Just get wet rule, a strategy for overcoming hesitation by committing to a very small initial step. How does the just get wet rule help overcome initial inertia? Antidote to stress, something that prevents or lessens the effects of stress. How can a sense of accomplishment act as an antidote to stress? A proficient swimmer, a person who is skilled and competent in swimming. What is the long-term impact of consistent practice on becoming a proficient swimmer? Compound effect, the accelerating growth of something as a result of continually reinvesting gains. How does the compound effect apply to learning a new skill? Part 2. Reflecting on your experiences with new skills. Think about your own experiences with learning a new skill, past or present. Answer the following questions. Can you recall a recent instance where a small win significantly boosted your motivation or helped you overcome a hurdle while learning something new? Describe it. What is one new skill or hobby you're currently trying to learn? How could you break it down into smaller, achievable wins? Do you typically acknowledge or celebrate your small accomplishments when learning something new? So how? If not, why do you think you don't? How do small wins influence your overall feeling of progress and stress levels when learning a new skill? Or on days when you feel stuck or unproductive in your learning, what is the smallest possible win you could aim for to regain momentum? Do you use any tools like progress journals, apps, or mentors to track your small wins in learning? So which ones are effective? Looking back, what is one major lesson you've learned about the power of small victories in the learning process? What is one new strategy for achieving or recognizing small wins in your learning journey that you would like to incorporate into your routine? What advice would you give to someone who feels overwhelmed by the prospect of learning a new, complex skill and can't seem to get started? Part 3. Practicing phrases for discussing new skills. Imagine you are talking to a friend in English about how to approach learning a challenging new skill. Practice using the following phrases in your conversation. I'm trying to break down this big skill into smaller, manageable parts. I think achieving small wins will really help with confidence. My goal for today is just to practice one micro skill/drill. I need to make sure I don't overlook these tiny improvements. What's the smallest actionable step we can take to get started? I find that completing a small drill gives me a real boost. Do you have any strategies for celebrating minor accomplishments? I'm hoping this approach will help combat initial apprehension. It's about building momentum, isn't it? Practice incorporating these phrases naturally into your explanation of the situation and your feelings about it. Part 4. Role-playing a scenario on implementing small wins in learning. Imagine you and a friend are starting to learn a new, complex hobby together, e.g., playing a musical instrument, coding a new language. You both agree that focusing on small wins will be key. Take turns suggesting how you will plan for and track these small wins, and discuss potential challenges. Use phrases like, what if we started by outlining all the major components and then brainstormed all the tiny drills for the first component? Another option could be to create a shared progress log where we can visually track our small achievements. I think the benefit of that would be that it provides tangible evidence of progress for both of us. However, a potential drawback might be that it takes extra time to meticulously plan every single small step. Have you considered setting a daily mini practice goal for each of us at the start of the session? That's an interesting idea. How would that help us generate momentum? I'm not sure if we'll always remember to celebrate every tiny win in the rush of things. Perhaps we could designate a specific time each week to review our collective small wins? What do you think is the first small win we should aim for with this new hobby? Practice this dialogue, focusing on collaborative planning and respectful communication. Narrator. The ability to effectively leverage small wins is not merely a learning hack, but a profound psychological strategy that can transform our relationship with challenging new skills. As Daniel and Chloe so thoughtfully illustrated, from consciously breaking down complex abilities to acknowledging every micro-accomplishment, every small victory contributes to a continuous cycle of motivation, confidence, and sustained progress. By embracing the power of these seemingly minor achievements, we can navigate even the steepest learning curves with greater energy, less stress, and a deeper sense of fulfillment. Thank you for joining the English Learning Podcast today. We hope this episode has provided you with valuable language and practical insights for mastering the art of learning new skills through small wins. We'll be back soon with more engaging conversations to support your English.